NFL firestorm. Coach Prime has officially put the Browns on notice. Deion Sanders just unleashed a scorching rant over how Cleveland is treating Shedeur, and insiders say the front office is scrambling after this very public call-out.
Everybody's having a great day, and I'm here to tell you, we all should have knew this thing was going to heat up with Coach Prime. I knew it, bro. Coach Prime was not going to be quiet for that much longer. Now, we know Shedeur is going through a crazy situation in Cleveland. We're in this quarterback situation with him, Joe Flacco, and Dillon Gabriel. Now, for the most part, Coach Prime has been quiet. You know, getting the Buffs ready to make a run for that Big 12 title. He ain't really...
Adam the Bulls rant. You saw a lot of those passes were behind the line of scrimmage. That's not helping us, obviously. But his passer rating this year so far is pretty abysmal, right around 65, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Whereas last couple years, it was closer to 90, including when he was with us in 2023. So has he really fallen off that much of a cliff in just 1 or 2 years? Or is the problem bigger and more systemic?
It's it remains to be seen, in my opinion, because I think there's a lot of bad traits I've seen from Joe on film. Obviously, we're going to get into that more when we actually have the film in front of us.
The Cleveland Browns just got put on blast, and it wasn't by some random analyst or angry fan. It was by Coach Prime himself, and he did not hold back. After months of watching his son Shedeur get buried on the depth chart behind Joe Flacco and barely getting a real shot to prove himself, Deion Sanders finally broke his silence, and what he revealed about the NFL's treatment of his son will blow your mind. But here's the kicker. Prime just exposed something way bigger than Cleveland's quarterback mess, something that could change how we look at the entire 2024 draft conspiracy.
Man, he appeared on New Heights today. Those of you guys who don't know what New Heights is Travis Kelce and his brother, Jason Kelce, podcast. Now, in this podcast, they interview some of the biggest celebs, such as Caitlin Clark, Taylor Swift, and many, many others. Well, today it was Coach Prime name that was called.
Ingredients here not make it right. But I'm like, son, you gotta be ready. You gotta be ready when it's time. But when it's time, you're gonna know. I'm saying it's coming up. You know, I got a prediction. I ain't telling nobody. I got a feeling when it's gonna go down. But it's gonna go down this year. He's gonna get a shot.
Happen. All right.
Yeah, he's gonna get a shot.
And that's all you can ask for as a player. All you can ask for is the opportunity.
First of all, should we start wearing sunglasses on the show? Make us a little cooler. Listen, interesting take. He also would go on to say that you don't learn anything by being on the bench, which is funny. But he thinks, or it sure sounds like he thinks, he didn't say, but that Shedeur's he's gonna have his shot. That's what he said, his verbatim words.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all think Shedeur is going to get a shot at this at some point, barring some, fact.
You don't just take a quarterback who put up video game numbers at Colorado and stick him behind a 39-year-old Joe Flacco like he's some scrub from Division II. But today, Coach Prime went on the New Heights podcast with Travis and Jason Kelce. And brother, he came with receipts.
Deal is up in 27, right? Y'all think Lamar Jackson was going to get that deal again, get another big-time payday again if they had Shedeur on the bench? Y'all think the Baltimore Ravens wanted to pay Lamar Jackson again? $200-something million again?
Here's what nobody's talking about. While everyone was focused on Shedeur struggling to get playing time in Cleveland, Prime was sitting on information that's about to flip this whole narrative upside down. And trust me, after you hear what I'm about to break down, you're gonna understand why the Browns organization should be sweating bullets right now. So let me paint you the picture. Shedeur is in Cleveland, right? He's supposed to be learning behind Joe Flacco, staying ready, being patient. That's the company line. But what Coach Prime revealed today proves that this whole development story is complete garbage, and I'm about to show you exactly why. First, let's talk about what Prime said about patience. When the Kelce brothers asked him what advice he's given Shedeur, Prime said, "Be patient and be ready. You gotta be ready when it's time." But when it's time, you're gonna know, and it's coming up. Now, on the surface, that sounds like typical dad-coach advice, right? But listen to what he said next. I got a prediction. I ain't telling nobody. I got a feeling when it's gonna go down. But it's gonna go down this year. Y'all hear that confidence? That's not hope talking. That's a man who knows something we don't. That's a father who's been working behind the scenes, making calls, having conversations that the media isn't privy to. Prime knows Shedeur's time is coming, and soon. But here's where it gets really interesting. Prime dropped a bomb that nobody saw coming. He straight up revealed that Philadelphia called them on draft day. Not just Cleveland, Philadelphia. The Eagles were interested in Deion Sanders. And get this, so was Baltimore. The Ravens, with their superstar quarterback Lamar Jackson, were looking at Shedeur too. Now, before you say, John, that doesn't make sense, let me break down the chess game that was really being played here. The source material reveals something crucial. Lamar Jackson has a $260 million deal that runs through 2027. Jalen Hurts in Philly, he's got a 5-year, $255 million contract through 2028. Timestamp 147-209. Coach Prime stood on 8 toes and bits about Shedeur. You starting to see the picture now? These teams weren't just looking at Shedeur as a backup. They were looking at him as leverage. Think about it. You've got Lamar Jackson making elite money, and his contract is up in a few years. What better way to keep him humble during contract negotiations than to have a young, talented quarterback sitting right there on the bench, ready to take over? Same thing with Philly and Jalen Hurts. When 2028 rolls around and Hurts wants another massive payday, what's Philadelphia gonna say? Well, Jalen, we've got this Sanders kid who's been developing for a few years, so maybe you should consider taking a team-friendly deal. But here's what makes Coach Prime different from these other NFL dads. He saw right through the game. When Baltimore called, Prime actually put Shedeur on the phone with the organization. And according to Prime, Shedeur asked the obvious question. Why in the world would I go back up Lamar for 10 more years? And you know what? That young man was absolutely right to ask that question. Prime said it best. I've never sat on the bench and said, well, I learned a lot today. That's real talk right there. Shedeur didn't spend 4 years grinding at Colorado, putting up elite numbers, leading comeback after comeback, just to sit behind somebody else's franchise quarterback for a decade. But this is where the Browns situation gets really messy. Cleveland drafted Shedeur knowing full well they had Joe Flacco and were probably going to bring in another veteran. They sold him and his family a dream about competing and earning the starting job, but what's the reality? Shedeur's barely seeing meaningful snaps, while Joe Flacco is out there looking like he should have retired 3 years ago. Prime addressed this head-on, and his frustration was obvious. He talked about how people on these platforms keep saying Shedeur should just sit back, learn, and develop. But Prime shut that down quick. He said, when have the pros ever developed anybody? By the time you get to the NFL, they expect you to know what you need to do and to do it, or somebody else going to get in there and do it. That's the truth nobody wants to admit. The NFL isn't college. They're not going to hold your hand and teach you how to play quarterback. You either come in ready to compete, or you get buried on the depth chart while they find somebody who can. And here's what's really eating at Prime. He knows his son is ready. Shedeur proved it at Colorado. He proved it in big games, pressure situations, with scouts watching every snap. The kid can play, but Cleveland's treating him like some project quarterback who needs years of development. But Prime also revealed something that shows he's not just some overprotective dad complaining about his son's situation. He's actually got jokes about it. He said, right now, they on my butt. I just told Shedeur, I know you miss me. They clowning me right now, and I'm clowning them right back. That tells me Prime is confident that this situation in Cleveland is temporary. He's not panicking. He's not demanding trades. He's just sitting back knowing that his son's talent is going to speak for itself eventually. And when it does, all these people clowning him now are going to look real stupid. But let's be real about what's happening here. The Browns are wasting a generational talent. Shedeur Sanders isn't just some quarterback. He's the son of one of the most iconic players in NFL history. He's got name recognition that brings eyeballs to TV screens. And most importantly, he can actually play the position at an elite level. Cleveland's front office is playing politics instead of putting the best players on the field. They're worried about veteran leadership. They're worried about locker room dynamics. They're worried about everything except winning football games. And that's exactly the kind of thinking that keeps organizations mediocre. Meanwhile, other teams are probably watching this situation and licking their chops. You think organizations like Miami, Las Vegas, or even New Orleans aren't keeping tabs on how Cleveland is handling Shedeur? Trust me, if the Browns don't figure this out soon, they're going to watch Shedeur become a star somewhere else while they're stuck with whatever veteran quarterback they can find in free agency. Prime's message today wasn't just about defending his son. It was a warning shot to Cleveland's organization. He's basically saying, I know my son's value, other teams know his value, and if y'all don't figure it out, we got options. And that's the part that should have Browns fans nervous. Because Coach Prime isn't just some college coach anymore. He's connected throughout the NFL. He played for Baltimore. He's got relationships with executives, coaches, agents. If he wants to make something happen for Shedeur, he's got the juice to do it. The reality is, Cleveland is sitting on a gold mine and treating it like fool's gold. Shedeur Sanders represents everything NFL teams claim they want. Intelligence, arm talent, leadership, clutch gene, and marketability. But instead of developing a plan to showcase those talents, they're letting him waste away on the bench while Joe Flacco throws interceptions and loses games. Here's what I think is going to happen. And Prime basically confirmed it with his prediction comment. Shedeur's going to get his shot this season, probably sooner than people think. Whether it's because of injuries, poor performance from the starters, or just Cleveland finally coming to their senses, his number's going to get called. And when it does, he's going to remind everybody exactly why he was one of the most talked-about quarterbacks coming out of college. But here's the million-dollar question that's going to determine everything. Will Cleveland give him a real opportunity to succeed? Or are they just going to throw him into impossible situations and then blame him when things don't work out? Because let's keep it real. That's exactly what bad organizations do. They mismanage a player's development, put them in terrible positions, and then act surprised when the player doesn't immediately turn into Tom Brady. Coach Prime is watching all of this, and he's not going to let his son get set up for failure. That confidence he showed on the podcast, that's not just fatherly pride. That's a man who's been preparing for this exact scenario. He knows Shedeur's ready. He knows the kid can handle whatever Cleveland throws at him, and he's ready to support his son through whatever comes next. The Browns organization better take notice, because Coach Prime just put them on blast in the most respectful way possible. He didn't attack anybody personally, he didn't make demands, he just laid out the facts and let people draw their own conclusions. But the message was crystal clear. Don't sleep on Shedeur Sanders, because he's coming. And when he arrives, everybody's going to remember why he was special in the first place. So what do y'all think? Is Cleveland about to waste one of the most promising young quarterbacks in the league? Or is Shedeur going to get his chance to prove all the doubters wrong? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is far from over, and Coach Prime just made sure everybody's watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because when Shedeur finally gets his shot, you know we're going to be here with all the reactions and breakdowns. This is just the beginning of what's going to be one of the most interesting quarterback situations in the NFL. Quarterback situations in the NFL.